Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with Schla. And today I'm getting gas and I've just come to accept the fact that on these days I'm just not really going to care about the time because yeah, well, no, I mean, I can't help myself. I'm going to care about the time, but I'm getting out here like not as early or not really rushing necessarily. So I'm later than I've been in a bit. Like this is because I actually honestly I don't think I've really given myself enough credit. I have been pretty consistent for a while now with the time. This is I've been doing pretty good, but this was kind of like a conscious thing where I was going to be like, I'll just get out 5 to 10 minutes later because really you can't trust that guy, whoever works at that gas station. Just you can't trust him. So they like to just not show up on time. And I don't know why they don't just change their hours, honestly, because I feel that that would make more sense. If they just changed their hours, they could just say they open 30 minutes later. I really don't understand, but who knows? It's probably, if I had to guess what I'm thinking of as I'm complaining about it, is that whoever owns the place, a lot of times humans, like they're really not thinking all that logically. They're not thinking like, oh well, I mean, some people are literally like, if I say it's going to open at 7, then I'm going to get there by 7:30, and if I say it opens at 7:30, then I'm just going to get there by 8. You see what I'm saying? Like that's literally how some people operate. Remember, there's no floor. There's no floor in terms of people's expectations or what you can expect out of a person, but there's a ceiling. So yeah, I'm assuming it could be something as silly as that, where the owner of the business, even though they probably should just make it 30 minutes later, they just don't. So that's on them. Now, anyways, where are we at today? Well, I actually do have a pretty interesting topic I wanted to talk about. And it's something that, I haven't really thought about too much, but it's a valid point, I guess, and it kind of explains a lot of humans' default condition and really just maybe how I could make sense of life. I really tended to be the type of person who was very looking at things by the book, you know. What does the data show? What is, an awareness, not even just data, just awareness of what other people go through. I was going to say go to. What are we what other people go through, understanding what other people go through, thinking about it. It's all important stuff. And yet most people don't really do this and just kind of think about themselves. I don't really think that they have much of a grasp on what reality even really is. I think a lot of people find a comfort in not knowing, or they think they know, but they have beliefs that kind of shut down any expansion. And that's how they get away with not knowing, because I said, they shut down any, you can have beliefs if you think you're super smart, then it's pretty likely that you're not going to need to listen to anybody else, or you're not going to listen to many other people, you know? Because if you think you're the smartest, if you think you already know things really well, then yeah, descriptively and how you feel, you're going to feel like you know yourself well and that you're knowing. But what do you really know? You see what I mean? What do you really know? It's a belief, it's a knowledge that works to shut down, works to diminish or reduce. And it's very important to specify. Very important to specify. Now, if you look at things now, they look pretty bleak. A lot of the data that exists, we have access to, it shows that there's tough times ahead, inevitably. And that hasn't really been the case for a while, because the 1900s were mostly just tons of upward trajectory and momentum. But we're easing off of that high. We're easing off of the high of growth. And it's difficult for us. We are expecting more growth. We're expecting to modernize and for things to improve, but they won't. This generation's quality of life will be worse than their parents. I applied a lot of this stuff to me. I know I still do have a scarcity. I fear about money, fear about homelessness, lots of fears. And in a lot of ways, my fears are valid. They're incredibly valid given the current trajectory of things that has continued to head in the direction that it's been going in for a while now. There hasn't really been a clear shift in trajectory. Really at all. And that's why it's very easy for people, for all of us, to feel stuck, because there really isn't much hope. That, logically speaking, there's not. Logically speaking, I think people would be up in arms about what's going on right now if people just knew. But see, people don't know. People aren't familiar. People aren't aware of what is actually going on or what's at stake. That's the difference, is that people don't They don't know, they're not familiar. Humans, I think at our core, as much as we have to harden, we have to create shells due to negative past experiences. We need to shield ourselves from disappointment. We worry when we're too happy when the next bad event will occur. We worry. And those who don't worry are free, but they're still subject to the same roller coaster. The thing is, what is interesting about humans is there's a capability and there's a tendency to hope. We have this ability to hope for things. And I think it's very distinguishing because I'm not sure that other animals really deal with this concept of hoping for something. I think other animals may just be operating off of instinct and they don't really. But we have an ability to perceive, we have an ability to anticipate, to calculate. Good skills, but they can get excessive and misleading if not used in moderation. But I think deep down, as even though a lot of us have no hope or would describe ourselves as that, we all have some degree of hope because that's the only reason why we even continue to function. If a human had actually no hope, I think that's when they would no longer exist. Because why would you have a reason? Why would you want to get out of bed if you didn't have any hope? I think hope for a day is needed to get through a day. Hope that someday what you want, you'll receive, and how you feel will be understood. There's not really any other reason why we would be interested in getting up in the morning. Why else would we? If there really was no hope, there was no joy or hope in the future that our lives could improve, that our lives could get better, why would we continue to do anything? We begin to cling onto the past, and we have been hurt so much or damaged so much that it becomes too exhausting to find joy. Too much effort to figure out what would actually make us happy. And so we succumb to these hopeless feelings, and that's why people get stuck. That's why it's really a loss of hope. The tricky thing about hope, and what makes it so complicated to comprehend, is that hope is not really the same as expecting. I think we get these two things mixed up a lot. Hoping for something and expecting something. Maybe not, but I think a lot of people, when they hope something will happen, it's a very clear distinction. It's more like they expect it will happen. Or maybe somewhere in the messy in between of those two things. So, where does this lead us? Where does this lead us? We have to think. Because at first it kind of frustrates me, and in a way I have a point when people fantasize about their future, about owning a house, having a wife, being in a relationship, having a husband. When people think about these things, I think we don't really hope for them. We want to be able to just expect them. And maybe not all of us do, but definitely kind of becomes like a checkbox thing, you know? And if you want something, you're not going to be happy if you don't end up getting it. Of course, I think that goes without saying. We get very attached to the things we hope for. We get very affected when we get disappointed. But what comes of all this? You know, like, what does it all mean? I think humans are driven by hope. I think if it wasn't for hope, then I'm not really sure where we would be, where any of us would end up. You know? Because where would we end up? How do we know? We really don't. We really don't know. How we'll go. And how's hope necessary? Something, you know, when I didn't have it, you feel terrible. And even now, I wouldn't say that I fully have hope. Sorry, I remember what I was going to say now. I used to be kind of frustrated with people that seem to have these expectations that weren't fair. Most people in our generation won't own a home. Most people won't be in a marriage. I'm not going to say most people won't get into relationships, because I'm sure that is correct, that most people will. But you'll start to see different kinds of relationships where there's potentially less effort put into the connection. So it's a whole different thing, you know? It's a whole different experience and question. But we need hope, as little as it makes sense, as little as we really have, because we're in an odd spot. Or is it really all that odd at all? I mean, humans for most of time have had to deal with an uncertainty of things. This goes back almost infinitely to where I'm sure there were humans thousands of years ago that thought the world would end, and it never did. And over time, more and more people would think that the world would end, but then it wouldn't. But some people do have more of a genuine hope, you know? I think some people do. And not in that kind of fraudulent sense. But in a real way. Humanity, I guess, never had anything for certain. We increased the amount of things that are for certain. And that has possibly and probably helped us. Food is nearly a certainty. Hospital, healthcare, nearly a certainty. Although obviously in more recent times, there's been more of a split pertaining to that. As more people probably can't afford healthcare like they used to. But for a brief duration, humanity was in good shape in that regard. We created a sense of certainty where in the wild there usually was not. Now, my commentary. What is my commentary? The essentialness of hopes. We all, I really think we all diminish a lot. We don't really have to hope. I think we're given these screens, these all-powerful, all-knowing screens, and it reduces the amount of things we really have to hope for. I don't really feel that we learn to actually be patient or hope for anything. It's honestly not super logical. To hope, it doesn't really make a lot of sense from the outside, but it's really what gives us the energy to even keep going and do anything. You know? There's so many examples of like why would people even bother to do much of anything? What's the point? You know, there's a lot of situations like that. Where, yes, somebody may understand and be hopeful, but who knows? I'm very sorry. I know this episode is terrible, but I am extremely tired, and it's greatly prohibiting my ability to communicate properly, as it is also affecting my driving. So I really did want to talk about it, and I do, but I kind of have a feeling maybe tonight I will repeat it. I'm not certain. We'll have to see. We will have to see. But there's a brief explanation just so it's documented why somebody notices something's wrong with this episode or something like that. That's why. It's because I'm so tired. Now, this one does have a pause record option, but I'm not really comfortable using it because the 2 times I accidentally pressed it to pause and unpause the recording, it just crashed the app and I lost the recording. So you guys are just going to have to deal with the silence, you know? What else is new, right? Can't have all that much fun, I guess. Still ending up here quite early. This is not really... I guess it is good, honestly. It's better than the other times, because the other times I was kind of late to this, and that doesn't really make sense, because they could be open, too. You know? The guy shows up. If the guy shows up at the right time, then I would want to be there, you know, hypothetically. And yeah. Hope it's not too long of a wait, but like I said, I'm fine with it because I'm really craving rest anyway. So if for the one day for him to not be there, that's fine. It would be fine. Just don't know yet. We just don't know. We just don't know. Well, I mean, yeah, they're not there yet, but that's fine. That's fine. At least we made it here unscathed. And I can just chill for a bit. You know, just chill, just chill. But yeah, I guess I should have been even later. I guess I should have came even later. But it's all right, you know. Uh, is he actually here? Look at that. That's got to be like perfect timing. I think that could be him, actually. Yeah, wow. Hmm. Very nice. Very nice. That's great. Wow. Would you look at that? All right, let's just remember to do this. All right. And then let's just do this. All right, guys, it's a lucky day. We're off to a lucky day despite me being extremely tired. I guess it's interesting for recording's sake though. Like I'm not as mad about it as I am with the silence because I really think this recording probably sounds very strange and weird. I mean, it's not it's not good, but at least like I'm documenting. I'm not just being like a bad speaker or whatever. Like I'm genuinely just tired. Like I'm way too tired and my brain. Oh my gosh, I was worried there, like on the highway. I don't really remember it being like that for a while, but yeah, man. Gets kind of scary cuz you're like your eye you can't keep your eyes open, but I don't think yeah, nothing really crazy happened. I was doing quite well. So, you know. Yeah, now we're just waiting for this guy to turn the thing on. But it's cool. It's cool that he happened to show up on time today. It was perfect timing. All right. I'll be right back, guys. All right, guys. Hey, guys. What's up? It's La. Yeah, that was the first time he's been on time in a minute, but it's good for us. It's very good for us. We actually might be able to get out at a decent time today, so because usually, like, since he's not there, it affects my timing of when I can go home. So we'll just have to see. I'll have to calculate. We'll have to see what time we actually end up getting there at this point. But well, we're starting off with some bad light luck, but that's okay because our luck's already so high. We've already exceeded expectations anyway. Maybe that woke me up a little bit. Maybe it woke me up a little bit. Hopefully. Yeah, so we're talking about why even even when hope doesn't make any sense, it's kind of a necessary thing. And just how much I don't know if it's helpful that we're just being told to lower expectations. I just don't really know that is the helpful thing or that's the healthy thing for society. Because that's kind of what's happening. Like, it's kind of like, well, yeah, you just can't expect it. You just can't. But really, what does that even mean? I don't know. I think it gets kind of tricky to figure out, you know, gets tricky. Yeah, I'm already tired again. Like, it's like that. Yeah, there was like a brief, like, oh wow, like I think I'm all. No, it's just because I got up, had to go do stuff, but now I'm back in, and so now it's like, yeah, well, you know, you know, just continuing to figure this stuff out, just continuing to try to figure stuff out. But yeah, so hope it's necessary. It's not. It doesn't necessarily make sense either because I don't. Obviously, most people are never going to fulfill their dreams, but why do we conclude that then we shouldn't have any dreams? Like, part of what can make life so uplifting is the chance. It is true, and I've mentioned this before. It's not a good thing that life has decreased the possibilities and chances that we have. It's not, because it still was better in the past when you had a higher chance for good things to happen. You had an easier time socializing. You had an easier time dealing with these things. You had an easier time making friends. These things definitely do help things a lot. Like, being able to achieve or almost achieve what we want really helps. The problem is that with tech, I think it makes our desires deeper. It makes our desires more complex because we're living in this further actualized state. we're living in a further developed version of ourselves, a version that isn't, I don't really know how else to describe it, but it's a version of ourselves that isn't, that it's deeper. And so what we want is deeper too. And it makes connections more difficult. Now, does that mean connections are more difficult? No. Or does that mean there's more meaning? I mean, I guess in a way, but I think things are just more difficult now. And that's why it's naturally harder to hope. There's a naturalness in the difficult. There's a validity. There's a validity in our reduced hope. There's a validity. It's fine. It makes sense given our environment, but it is very destructive. And so while I scoff at people before for not being aware and how much of a problem that is, their lack of awareness, their lack of a capability to understand the impending issues, in a way, how mad can you really get at these people? You know? I mean, we're all trying. We're all trying to figure this stuff out. And what's so wrong with a little bit of hope, even if it's irrational? It's good. Now, it's bad, I guess, if the hope is too extreme. The desires are like way too high. But even still, I think the only problem is that we get fatigued after waiting. If we didn't get so tired of waiting, would a lot of these things even be a problem? I'm not really too sure. I think it's possible we could just eventually get over them. All right. Let's try to figure out what we're doing here. Ooh. All right, we good. Ooh, ooh, could be tight, but I think we good. No, we good. Not really that tight. All right. All right. Yeah, I think we're gonna be fine. I think we're probably gonna be able to get out at a decent time too. Honestly, I don't even think it's gonna be that crazy. Because yeah, we made it good. Sometimes it could even be 10 minutes later than right now. So count my lucky stars. Count my lucky stars. Just counting my lucky stars. All I'm doing. But we'll see. We'll have to do the calculating. All right. Just get situated here. Interesting episode. Was kind of bad, but you know, how much can we really, I mean, you know, bad, good. What's the difference? You know, good, bad. What's the black, white? What's the difference anyway? You know, yes, no. Yeah, what is the difference anyway? Anyways, it's been schla, and now it's time to buy schla. So, see you schla.